Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Laces Out podcast, our NFL podcast, American football. There's no guest. There's some confusion about why there's no guest. It's almost 100% my fault. I think I may have hallucinated some or all of the conversation at some point in time, which led me to believe we had a guest, and then we didn't. So, hold me responsible. Take me out back, shoot me, if that's what you want to do. Treat me like the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of, let's get into some American football. Before that, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Big one here. If you know anybody that likes the NFL, say, hey, there's this podcast. Check it out. It might be for you. It might not. If it is, cool. There we go. Right. Let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces Out.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. For those of you joining us on YouTube, you'll be able to see myself and the smiling face of my co-host right there. There he is, Mr. Andrew Cook, which means two things. One, we weren't able to secure the guest this week once again. But much more importantly, it means it's CookieCast bringing you another installment of NFL Laces Out podcast. We're back for another week. How are you this week, Mr. Cook? Are you well?
I am, which in this day and age is frankly a miracle. Although I am questioning my own mental status, as I think I may have hallucinated the conversation about getting a guest this week. So I've been scratching my head on that one. I've been a bit like,
well, I believe to pull back the curtain somewhat, the feelers were put out, but sadly they were put out slightly too late.
You see, that was the problem, because I thought the conversation had already happened a while ago. So it's on me, as it always is. It's my job. And like any job, I should probably be fired.
All I'll say is, never fear. Whilst we do not have a guest, I have pulled some strings, and I have managed to obtain technically a guest set of picks for the game picks. I'll go through that when we get to that later on in the podcast. But obviously that's week 3 to look forward to. But first, we need to look back at week 2 that has just been. And obviously, as is the case with the podcast, each week myself and Mr. Cook and a guest or otherwise make our week by week game selections to see who comes out with the point, as it were, for the week's games. So, week 2, we're still early in the season, still 16 games to pick.
I do not feel confident about my week 2 predictions or the side bet predictions. I watched a lot of my predictions just fall flat on their faces. In real time, it was an absolute delight. If you need to know, as a complete aside, I'm trying desperately not to derail things, but I feel like I might have some sort of beef going on, because week 2, I had the joy of playing the person I lost to in week 1 in fantasy in week 2. Anybody want to guess what happened there? Yeah, we don't need to guess. So it's fine. I'm a two league kind of guy. And I said this phrase. Well, I think it's safe to say that I've won this week, because there's absolutely no way that X player isn't going to score 3 points or more. So losing this week by 1 point is this guy right here. And obviously, that is hands down just a karmistic spanking. So 2 losses this week, which I believe puts me 0-2 in one of my leagues. But it's fine because the person that beat me this week is leading the league. And I know we don't do a lot about fantasy, but I just wanted to, air my dirty laundry live on the podcast.
It's absolutely fine. Air away is what I would say. Don't be backwards in coming forwards.
And now you're going to tell me that I lost the week's predictions and I lost the side bet, and then I can, just put a bow on week 2 and throw it in the freaking river.
It would be remiss of me to just dive in and tell you that you'd lost last week without having some hard evidence.
This is why
to back up such a claim. However, it was a bit of a backwards week in the NFL. As of the 16 games we predicted, the guest from last week did come in 3rd place. Now it was Madame Amy Williams. Sadly, 6 correct selections out of the 16. At this point, it's obviously easier to go through the teams that she got correct rather than the teams that let her down. So she had the Bills to beat the Dolphins, 1. The Chargers to beat the Panthers, because obviously. The Packers to beat the Colts. The Vikings to beat the 49ers. The Seahawks to beat the Patriots. And the Jets to beat the Titans. Everything else went against her. And it didn't get much better for myself and Mr. Cook, as we both had 8 of 16 selections correct. Now, as we discussed last week, we basically made the same selections across the board. So we were let down by the Ravens not beating the Raiders, the Cowboys not beating the Saints, the Lions not beating the Bucks, the Colts not beating the Packers, the Jaguars losing to the Browns, the Niners losing to the Vikings, the Rams losing to the Cardinals, and the Eagles in case that myself and Mr. Cook tied last week. So we said that we would try and guess the total number of points that would be scored in the Falcons-Eagles game. Andy went for 56 points. I went for 49. The final score was 22-21 in favour of the Falcons, which is 43 points in total, which does give me the tiebreaker to give me the point for the week. So only 50% correct for both of us, but the tiebreaker situation does give me the edge to give me the points. It puts us at a point each after 2 weeks with the guest yet to score.
Before moving on, can you just recap those games one at a time?
Of all 16?
Yeah, so give me the first one. Is he there? Is the internet?
Is he there? Oh, I don't know.
Is the internet playing up? Terrible internet.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? This is absolute podcast gold. Me and you enjoying the delight that is. Can you hear me? I think he's gone. I think he's gone. Has he gone? He's gone. Wait, did you come back? Did you come back?
I've been here the whole time.
My Zoom was like, you don't need to talk to this person anymore.
So is it? It's technically shown as recording.
Yeah, it's saying it's recording, and it told me again. It was like we're definitely recording. I like I said, this will be the second time I fire off the podcast gold. Of are you there? So, to reiterate, can you tell me the first game from that list?
So I can go through all 16 if it makes it easier.
Well,
so
just go, because the reason being is each time you said one of those games, I was like, "Oh, did you see?" And then you went, and then this one, I was like, "Oh, but yeah, did you see this as well?" So I think I might have something for nearly all of those games from the last week. Little tiny snippets. Some of them are just.
So we'll start with the Thursday night game. And we got it correct because we did have the Bills to beat the Dolphins.
There's something in the stats for the Dolphins, so I won't bury the lead on that one.
But we'll leave that alone. We were let down immediately on Sunday as we had the Ravens to beat the Raiders.
Right. So, did you see the Ravens players leaving the game, leaving the stadium to abuse from Ravens fans who were like, "You shit." And the guy who completely lost his freaking mind about whichever player it is who seems to be spending more time doing his podcast than playing on the field. And I'm like, I mean, you know, well, live feedback as it's happening, I guess. That's part of it. But yeah, abuse thrown in the direction of the players.
It's not ideal, is it? We have the Chargers to beat the Panthers because, well, duh.
You know. And I'm just going to have to do it like pulling off a plaster or a Band-Aid if you're listening in the Americas. It has been reported that this morning a certain ex-Panthers quarterback was seen practicing with the Panthers because apparently the Panthers are looking to bring back one of the worst decisions they have made to quarterback form, having put their first round pick onto the bench. So look forward to weird hats and weird capitalized tweets from everybody's least favorite NFL player. Set to return. But you know, honestly, earlier today I was like, this could be it for me. This might be the end. I might have to, you know, hang up the Spurs, as it were. But anyway, moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on, we were then let down again as we had the Cowboys to beat the Saints. Don't think anyone saw that one coming.
No, obviously there was mention in our group about the. I think it was phrased the ghost of Alvin Kamara being raised from the dead and just shitting on everybody's weekend.
I personally would have preferred if he'd used the phrase "the reanimated corpse."
That game was mental. There were points where I was like, oh, I think the Cowboys are going to bring this one back because it was just so random.
Yeah.
I think there may be a mention of Baker Mayfield in the stats, but I have seen a stat this afternoon where they have compared Baker Mayfield to Drew Brees over the first 95 games of their respective careers, with the title Baker Mayfield possibly the most underrated quarterback in history, because it's interesting to look at the numbers. Let's put it that way.
That was, of course, the Lions falling at home to the Buccaneers, which we definitely got wrong. We had selected the Colts to beat the Packers, which they definitely did not do. We had the Jags. We had the Jags to take care of business against the Browns, which again did not happen.
I didn't have anything for that one.
We had the 49ers to beat the Vikings, which was probably the coupon buster of the weekend.
So I did have something for this one, and I think I mentioned it again in our group in an offline capacity, in the fact that every single time I venture to the internet, the number of weeks that CMC is going to be on the injured list has rapidly gone from, I think it was 1 to 4, and then it's now looking more like a 4 to 6 kind of area. As I said, I believe it was last week on the podcast, the condition that they are listing him with has no end-to-end time. The thing that originally came out was you can be sorted in a week, or it can take 3 months. And then the 49ers don't win. Coincidence?
I suppose the weird thing with it is the fact that, yeah, fair enough, CMC is not playing, but it's not as if they're not getting production out of Jordan Mason, who's playing in his position. So it's a strange one. I know
it's a weird one.
You're talking about probably, the best in his position at this current time. But is he that good that missing him is completely sort of like messing with the team's dynamic? I mean, it could be. We'll move on anyway. There might be some more stuff in the stats. We did have the Seahawks to beat the Patriots, which we got correct. We had the Jets to beat the Titans, which was correct.
So, I watched what was hands down one of the single most interesting breakdown of play videos I have ever seen. The guy was going through, on a big screen. I can't even tell you who he was. He was breaking down the small intricacies of the way that Aaron Rodgers was changing a play by what he was seeing. And they're all supposed to be so he apparently he'd done this just before starting a play. He'd done this, and people are like, "Oh, he's just picking something off his shirt." Nope. Apparently he'd done this. Oh, he's got an itch. Nope. Apparently this is a fly ball. He's picking a fly off his jersey, and this relates to something else. So they showed the play and how that's what had happened, and then they showed the next play, and there was something else. He'd done something behind his back to signal to one of the guys that he needed to go out to the right. And I was like, and the caption was, I could watch this for hours. And I was like, I would absolutely sit and watch this all day. This is fascinating. And it was literally 2 plays. The video was just short of 5 minutes, and I was glued to it. And they were saying this is why, obviously, there's been, rough year last year, bit of a rocky start to the season, but this is why Rodgers should be immediately in that MVP kind of picture. And it's stuff like that. Yeah. Veteran quarterback, though, isn't it?
The thing, when they've got it between the ears, that's half the battle. We correctly had the Commanders to beat the Giants.
I did see something that I never fact checked, so don't hold me to this one. But apparently, the family of the person who was used for the Redskins logo, I don't know if you can actually say that anymore, but the person who had been used for the side profile for the logo has requested for the logo to be reinstated and the name to be reinstated. And apparently, 90% of
Commanders?
no Native Americans of all 90% of Native Americans preferred the name. And it's like, okay, I can see an easy win on this one, guys.
You would have thought.
Yes, I didn't fact check that, so if it's wrong, that's me.
We mistakenly have the Rams to beat the Cardinals.
There is something in the stats for this.
Okay, we'll come back to that one.
Something I've seen this week, which I first saw it from a wrestling video, and then I've now seen it used in the NFL, is the overhead cam that follows the action. And I saw it for, like I say, for the wrestling first, and was just like, this is mental. Like, the camera's trying to keep track of all the stuff. But then I saw it for Kyler Murray play, and it's like, I think I could watch the entire game like this. It's fascinating.
It is pretty good. I think it's especially good for like the sort of the dukes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because obviously, like it's sort of like it's the
because
sort
that
of
was
the
part
quick
of the play. He slipped a player, and it was like, that's cool, man.
Yeah. We correctly had picked the Steelers to beat the Broncos.
There's something in the stats for that.
We correctly have the Chiefs to beat the Bengals, although conspiracy theorists, now's your time to come forth.
What are you looking at me for? It's not like I've already said that, I hope they've left enough room on the Lombardi Trophy for the Chiefs and all of the names of the referees that will help them to their next Super Bowl win.
We correctly had picked the Texans to beat the Bears.
I'll say this: the Bears aren't having the best time of things at the moment. I think the most popular one going around is the text message that the quarterback for the Bears sent to the kicker of the Bears that said, "Don't worry, you won't have to be doing much kicking this season." And then there is a stat for, is it 11 of 16?
Oh, it's worse. I'm pretty sure. So it's the punter, not the kicker. And he, I believe his go-to was, "Don't worry, man, you aren't going to be punting much this season." He's proceeded to punt on 16 of 18 possessions so far this season.
Have we got something for the Derek Carr? I didn't look too far because I wanted the stats to be nice and fresh, but the Derek Carr thing that every time he's held the ball this season has been on has resulted in a scoring play.
I think I had heard something about that. He's like, yeah, every time he's possessed the ball, the Saints have scored points. So be it touchdowns, field goals.
Yeah.
And just to round out the week's predictions, we fell at the last hurdle by incorrectly predicting that the Eagles would beat the Falcons, which, of course, they did not. So that rounds us out to a magnificent 50%, 8 of 16 selections.
They didn't. However, Jason, I'm choking. Delightful podcast this has been so far. Jason Kelsey, up to his old tricks, tried to get in to the Eagles facility was promptly informed, "You don't work here anymore." He's like, "Ah, that's no good, is it?" But was then given a Eagles tracksuit, full-blown tracksuit, which looked to be some sort of velour, and sent on his merry way. And next was seen dancing on a stage somewhere and talking about his tits on TV, second week in a row. I imagine at this point in time, they are just going to see how many times they can get him saying tits on TV. Yeah, unfortunately, Eagles also in the firing line at the moment. Yeah, don't think their fan base is overly thrilled with their current standings. Obviously, a completely different way of doing things this week. I don't know if it's just an influx of media. I don't know if it's just week 2. I don't know if it's just that I spend far too much time on the internet. But there did seem to be a lot of information flying around for week 2. So I thought, hey, let's get into it. Put me out of my misery. How bad was the side bet?
So the side bet, obviously, for new customers, obviously that is where myself and Andy pick 4 banker results for the week. If we get them right, we get a point. If we get them wrong, we don't get a point. Tally it up at the end of the season. Highest points win. Andy's 4 selections for last week were the Eagles to beat the Falcons, the Ravens to beat the Raiders, the 49ers to beat the Vikings. Did have the Commanders to beat the Giants, so does scrape back a point at the end there. So you were on 4 points, as you had a clean sweep the week before. Just the 1 point to tide you over this week to move you to 5. I had the Chargers to beat the Panthers. Yes. The Lions to beat the Buccaneers. No. The Jets to beat the Titans. Yes. And the Texans to beat the Bears. Yes. So I managed to get 3 points to also put me to 5 points for the season. So we are level pegging, as it were.
So, what we're saying is that I got shafted on absolutely everything this week. That's good to know.
That would appear to be.
Ooh. This is the podcast where wins become losses and losses become wins.
I believe we do have some stats about week 2 to go through.
Yes. Obviously, we had it was no secret. We had some issues with our stats last week. As I said at the time, mostly to do with believing that AI was going to save the day and then being proven hella wrong. So we've corrected the course, we've righted the boat, and the stats mistress has gone old school, as in the same way they were done last season. So NFL Week 2 stats, credit to the man himself, Nate Davis of USA Today. He's back, ladies and gents. And the stats mistress is back on top. Here we go. As I said in our little recap of the week, I knew there was something in the stats, and it is the first stat. Not exactly a great way to start, but it needs to be done. So undoubtedly the biggest story of week 2, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa suffered his 3rd documented concussion in the past 2 years, casting doubt not only on the Fins' season, but his NFL future. Following a 4-year, $212.4 million extension with Tagovailoa this summer, the Dolphins are 7-10, including playoff, without him in the starting lineup. since he was their first round draft pick in 2020. Well, as I said, there was a start. I didn't want to get too much into it in the roundup. Obviously, we saw what happened. Obviously, we saw the results. There are words flying around that start with R. There's been a video from the Dolphins head coach to address whether Tua will retire or not. And I think there isn't a single person out there that's not going to say, ultimately, when it comes to your health, are there really any questions? On a happier note, Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray posted a perfect 158.3 passer rating for the first time in his 6-year career by throwing for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns in the 41-10 blowout of the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. Okay. Number 3, as for the number 1 team in the NFL, it's probably still going to be the reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs after they squeaked past the Cincinnati Bengals 26-25 on Sunday. The debate for number 2, not to mention what's sure to be a heavily shuffled top 5, will doubtless include the New Orleans Saints, who are 2-0, courtesy of a league-high 91 points after they drubbed the Dallas Cowboys 44-19 on the road, breaking Dallas's 16-game regular season winning streak at AT&T Stadium. Number 4, since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger, only one team has scored more points through 2 games than the 2024 Saints. The 2009 Saints. New Orleans running back Alvin Kamara was Sunday's star with 180 yards and 4 touchdowns from scrimmage. Second time in his 8-year career, he found the end zone at least that many times in a game. Number 5, the Saints are one of 6 teams in the 2-0 club. Bills, Buccaneers, Vikings, Seahawks, Texans. Mike McDonald, 37, becomes the first Seattle coach to ever start his tenure with consecutive wins. I thought it was interesting because they gave him a Gatorade shower at the end of the first game, and I was like, whoa, this is not the Super Bowl. But then they were like, it's because he's one of the few coaches in history to go win his first game. I was like, all right, fair enough. Well, I'll allow it. My final stat for the week. Week 2 games also featured matchups of 6 0-1 squads. And the Colts, Giants, Jaguars, Rams, Ravens, and Titans are now all among the league's 0-2 outfits after yet another of their painted fourth quarter collapses against the visiting Las Vegas Raiders. Of all teams, Baltimore is 0-2 for the first time in its tenure under quarterback Lamar Jackson, who was drafted in 2018. Can you get through 6 stats in 3 minutes?
If I'm very, very quick.
That's what she said. Go.
The New York Jets evened out their flight path with a 24-17 win at the Tennessee Titans, thanks to major contributions from the NFL's oldest and youngest players. Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 40, through a pair of touchdown passes, whilst rookie running back Braylon Allen, 20, scored twice, including on a 12-yard pass from Rodgers. Allen is the youngest player in the Super Bowl era, since 1966, to reach the end zone. But let's acknowledge the assist the Jets got from Titans QB Will Levis, who really irritated his head coach Brian Callahan with his mistake-laden play. We will come to that after the break, which we need to come back to because that was funny. It's not necessarily pretty, but no way the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go immediately pivot to veteran quarterback Russell Wilson and his problematic calf after getting off to a workmanlike 2-0 start behind Justin Fields and a dominant defense. tough watch, though. The Steelers and Denver Broncos combined for as many points as penalties. 19 in Pittsburgh 13-6 victory. New Washington Commanders kicker Austin Seibert drilled all 7 of his field goal tries, the difference in a 21-18 victory over the Giants, following Graham Gano's injury and missed kicking opportunities. So obviously the Giants scored all their points from 3 touchdowns, but no kicker, means no points after. Oh dear. Sticking with kicker news, Arizona kicker Matt Prater's 57-yard bomb on Sunday was his 81st career field goal from beyond 50 yards, extending his own all-time record. The consistency of Prater, also 40, should probably be further appreciated given the Ravens' Justin Tucker is now 1 for 7 from beyond 50 since the start of the 2023 season. Tucker was wide left with 56 yards on Sunday, another component of Baltimore's stunning home loss to Las Vegas, which clearly had the better kicker on this day. Daniel Carlson drilling all 4 of his field goal attempts, including 2 from 50 yards and plus. Minnesota wide receiver Justin Jefferson galloped for a 97-yard touchdown in his team's 23-17 upset of the reigning NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. For next-gen stats, Jefferson actually travelled 127.5 yards on the play, the most by a play on any offensive touchdown since next-gen stats were initiated in 2016. And my final stat, as it were, a very premature MVP vote goes to Alvin Kamara, who already has 5 touchdowns this season after averaging 5 during the 2022 and 2023 campaigns altogether. He also has 290 yards from scrimmage.
Right. We're going to take a very quick break. We're going to come back with some week 3. Don't change that channel. We'll be right back.
And just like that, the break is over. So before the break, we were just discussing the Will Levis stat from the Titans Jets game, and I didn't see the exact play, but I heard from a different podcast was that apparently at some point he tried to make a play where he was almost perpendicular to the ground, I believe.
Yeah.
And basically just ended up throwing the ball behind him.
Yeah.
Which obviously then can just be scooped up and, you know, nothing changes and stuff like that. Obviously, excellent work by the cameraman to cut to the side where the head coach is to quite clearly see him mouth the phrase, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
And obviously, they then interviewed him after the game, and I believe his exact phrase was, "What did you say to Will Levis after he made that play in the game?" And he said, "I believe that was pretty clear on the camera. Let's not mince his words." He then obviously went on to say, "Listen, he's a big boy. He's a grown man. He knows exactly what he's done. He knows he can't do that on the field, etc., etc." Yeah, more of that, please. Let's not protect these like sort of like very, very, very well paid like superstars. You know, they balls up and they need to be held accountable when they make silly errors.
I saw a video from some kind of like, you know, where they put somebody on a stage and they ask them questions and stuff. And it was Tom Brady talking about how the game has changed and the way they go about playing it and the way they go about sort of doing it. And he was talking about the difference from when he was doing it to the way they're doing it now, and how when he did it, it was a program and now it's a team. And it's saying like a rookie quarterback would never step on the field in their first, second, third, fourth plus season because they were still learning the game. They were learning from the best people to do it. They had mentors, they had coaches, they had people who were basically even going to take them from somebody who's come from a college level. And if you think like those college starters aren't always starters, they you know, it was saying like you could be like 10th on the roster and have to work your way up to 4. Somebody gets injured, you know, whatever happens, and then next thing, you're a starter. then you go to the NFL and you have years behind a veteran quarterback who's going to come and say, in this situation, you want to be doing this. And so that when you eventually step on the field to make that first play, you are in the best possible position you can be. It's like seeing a rookie quarterback take a snap in the NFL is insanity. Like, these guys haven't had the time it takes to get somebody to that level. And I have that mixed feelings / emotions around Tom Brady. There was a time when I couldn't stand to hear his name mentioned. There was a time where I went, do you know something? You really do have to sort of concede to greatness when it is just so apparent. There was a point in time where I was like, do you know something? I think, he probably is the best to have ever done it and all that. And then it just goes up and down. But when you see him talking about stuff like that, you're never going to say anything other than, yeah, you are absolutely 100% right. Talking about things like, we're benching our rookie quarterback week after his week 2 game. It's like, and who is that on? Whose fault is that? But
I mean, the thing that I don't quite get with the Bryce Young benching, are they doing it because they think that Andy Dalton gives them a better chance to win now, or is it because they think that, well, if our offensive line is so bad that Bryce Young's just going to get killed for the next 14 games this season, 15 games this season, is it we're kind of saving him from himself in as much as we've obviously invested large amounts of sort of money and draft picks and whatnot in this guy that we think is the future? Is it a case of we're shutting him down for this season because we want to have X amount of seasons to come and stuff like that? You'd like to think it's that rather than they just think that it's the win now mentality. Because let's be honest, no one in their right mind has the Panthers go to the Super Bowl probably ever, let alone in the next 10 years. So,
well, I was going to say, they're not going in the next 5 years. I'd be surprised if they go in the next 10 years. I'd be surprised if we see them back at the Super Bowl. I was going to phrase it in a particular way, but you don't want to jinx anything, I suppose. You would like to think they've looked at it and gone, this guy's going to get killed before he gets a proper start. And if you put it in line with that Tom Brady video, it's like, yeah, he can't be out there taking hits and taking shots and taking from every single team week in, week out until he's, concussed, shall we say, or worse. So pull him now, put Dalton in, who's got years of experience, good or bad, who can maybe slip the odd play here or there with that lack of protection. I think I said last week, I feel like we should be able to take a vote and vote that they take the Panthers out back and just put 2 behind the rear. And we just wipe the board. I don't know. Who is that team for right now? Is it for Carolina? Is it for the fans? Is it for anybody on that team? Is it for the coaches? Who is that team for? I don't understand what we're doing here. This team's going to go out and win this week. Nope. This team's going to go out and get absolutely obliterated by they're going to go out and lose to the 31st worst team in the NFL. And that's their lot in the season. It just, what are we doing? There should potentially be an option to say we are going to default the season. So for every game that we are due to play, that other team gets a win. They chalk up a win. They don't have to travel if it's coming to us. We don't have to travel if it's going to them. They get an extra bye week. It's not fair on certain other teams that wouldn't have ended up playing them anyway. But we need to stop the bleeding. We need to stem the tide, however you want to put it. We need to do something that a load of guys going out on the field week in, week out and getting killed by everybody and their dog. I reckon me and you could put a team together that could take on the Panthers at this point in time. And I honestly think that we'd have a decent chance of winning. I don't get who this is for. But that's
worrying, shall we say. So, that's week 2. Done and dusted. Put in the record books there for everyone to sort of pore over for the next however many years. Week 3 is approaching rapidly from over the horizon. As per usual, myself and Mr. Cook have made our week 3 game selections. Now, in lieu of the guest this week, what I have done is, rather than ask my good lady wife to provide some guest picks this week, what I've done, I've used the old noodle, and I've decided to use a betting company's stat line to provide who the handicapped favourite in the game is, so to speak. So, all of the picks that the guest has made this week are all the handicapped favourites from a negative perspective. So these are the teams that have had the points taken off them because they are favourite to win the matchup. So, I'll go through the games one by one, go through the picks, and we'll see where we are at the end. So, we start off with the Thursday night football, which sees, and it's an AFC East Thursday night game for the second week in a row. Last week, obviously, it was the Bills at the Dolphins. This week sees the Patriots at the Jets. And myself, Mr. Cook, and said betting company all fancy the Jets as the heavy favourites on this one.
Just before moving on from that, yeah. I'm desperately trying not to interrupt and end up running into the video, but I had to ask myself a question when I was picking this. Patriots have not been amazing for a few seasons now, obviously, since certain changes were made. And they're going up against the Jets. So you look at it, you go, okay, I don't think the Patriots can win this one. I think the Jets will win. If you go back a season, that probably wouldn't have been picked that way. So then I asked myself, how many times this season are you going to look at a matchup where it's the Jets on one side and unnamed team on the other side and go, yeah, I think the Jets can do this one. And how much of a contender does it make them?
These are the questions that must be asked. Thursday night, done and dusted. We move to the early slate of the Sunday games, and the first of which sees the Giants travelling to Cleveland to take on the Browns, and it's a clean sweep across the board. Everyone's in favour of the Browns on this one. There's an awful lot of clean sweeps, as it turns out. Mm-hmm. Saying that everyone's backing the Colts to get on the board at home to the Chicago Bears. We've all taken the Texans to do what the Niners couldn't and travel to Minnesota and get the win. We all have the Saints to carry on their good season start at home to the Eagles. It's a couple of 2-0 teams going up against each other, where the Chargers take on the Steelers. We've all backed the Steelers on this one. They are the hot favourite on this one. Next up, it's the Denver Broncos and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and surprise, surprise, everyone's backed the Buccaneers on this one. The next game sees our first difference of opinion. We have the Green Bay Packers at the Tennessee Titans. Now, technically, this will be Malik Willis travelling back to the team that drafted him a number of years ago, and then obviously cut him, traded him to the Packers, as they didn't really like what they'd seen. Thought there wasn't really much to work with. Is he going to go back and embarrass the Titans? Me and Andy certainly think so. However, the betting company has the Titans as the favourite here. Maybe because the Packers are going in with the second string quarterback. I don't know, but interesting to see what happens there. Next up, we have the Panthers, the moribund Panthers, the poor Panthers, travelling to the desert, Las Vegas, to take on the Raiders. Surprise, surprise, we're all back in the Raiders. We have the tour-less Miami Dolphins, travelling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Everyone's in on the Seahawks. We have the Lions trying to arrest their slide. Obviously, they're 1-1. They're travelling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, and we've all backed the Lions. Next one is our next difference of opinion game. It's the 0-2 Baltimore Ravens travelling to Dallas to take on the 1-1 Cowboys. The betting company has the Ravens as the favourite here, which Andy has agreed with. I, however, have backed the Cowboys to go to 2-1 rather than the Ravens to get to 2-1. 1-2 even. I believe the Ravens will be staring down the barrel of an 0-3 start. Next up, it's the 49ers at the Rams, and Andy and the betting company are in alignment once again. The 49ers, the heavy favourites there. I have backed the Rams, although I did make this selection before I realised that pretty much all of the wide receivers for the Rams are missing this game. Will it come back to bite me in the arse? Who knows? Live by the sword, die by the sword. The Sunday night football sees the Kansas City Chiefs on the road for the first time of the season, travelling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Surprise, surprise, we're all on the Chiefs. And then there's two Monday night games this week. We have the Jags-Bills in Buffalo, I believe, just after midnight. For UK people with access to it, that little puppy is on Sky Sports Mix. So if you do have a Sky subscription, I believe you get that channel for free. So there's a chance for you to watch free American football. You will have to stay up till midnight on Tuesday. But obviously you could record it if you've got the option to record and then watch it back the next day. Freebie. And the true Monday night game sees the Washington Commanders travelling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. That is a battle of a 1-1 and an 0-2 team. Probably, if you'd have said that beforehand, you'd probably thought that was going to be the opposite way around. Bengals very much needing a win to get on the board there. Couldn't really ask for much of a better opponent than a team that didn't even get in the end zone last week. Surprise, surprise, we've all taken the Bengals in that one. So, that is your 16-game selections. Like I said, not very many differences. Myself and Andy are only different on the Cowboys and Ravens game and Rams and 49ers game. And the guest this week is only different to myself and Andy in the fact that they've got the Titans over the Packers in that game. Everything else has been selected by either myself or Mr. Cook. So, all that leaves us to do for week 3 is to divvy up the old side bet. And as Mr. Cook, you technically lost last week, it's back to you to decide if you want to select first or stick me into bat first. I will let you make that choice right now.
I mean, it's quite simple, isn't it? Obviously, I'm picking first, and I'm just dialing into the Las Vegas Raiders to what's that word? Destroy the Carolina Panthers is going to be my first pick.
It's very much the hot hand that will be played most weeks this season. The one thing that would put me off is the fact that they've benched Bryce Young to go with Andy Dalton. Obviously, Andy Dalton, a much more NFL ready quarterback, but it is the argument of what's he working with. Let's wait and see. So that opens me up for my next two selections. Yeah, it's jumping off the page at me. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home to the Denver Broncos. I feel like it must. It just has to be. It has to be selected. Baker Mayfield running with the hot hand there. You'd like to think he's got enough to take care of business at home to a Broncos team that looked ropey at best with Bo Nix on the centre. And I'll take the Browns at home to the New York Giants. Potentially burnt by the Browns in week 1 when they lost to the Cowboys, but I don't see lightning striking twice. Your next two selections, please, Mr. Cook.
Honestly, I thought you'd have been having this one straight off. So I, in fact, will take the Bills to beat the 0-2 Jaguars. I will follow that up with the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Atlanta Falcons.
Right, so I'd seen one that I like the look of. Yes, I will go for the Seattle Seahawks.
I honestly thought I was going to snaffle that out from underneath you.
Seeing as they're playing against no Tua. Now, the question is, where do I go for my last selection? I'll go for the opening game of the week. I'll go for the Jets, get to take care of business at home against the New England Patriots. Which leaves the floor open to you, my friend, to make your final pick of the week.
I think what we've ultimately ended up with is a lot of dice rolling at this point in time. I honestly thought I was going to get that Seahawks game under the radar. So the only other one that is really standing out to me, and I think it is very much dice roll, but I'm going to go with it, is the Green Bay Packers to beat the Tennessee Titans. Looking at a 1-1 team to win is always a bit like, but an 0-2 Titans, and obviously everything we've already said this evening would lead me to that's maybe the one that would be to go with.
The only other one I thought you may have considered was the Bengals at home to the Commanders, only because the Bengals looked good against the Chiefs last week.
As the stats said, the Chiefs squeaked a victory. As with every time the Chiefs play at the moment the game ends, there's just a series of videos of how penalties were missed, how things were covered up by the refs, etc., etc., etc. And apparently, I'm sure I saw something that say that the NFL have gone on record to say that a penalty that was called wasn't a penalty, and that would have changed the course of the game. Stuff it always puzzles me why stuff like that's not like why they never go back on stuff like that. They never go back and go, this game would have categorically gone a different way, so we need to do something. obviously, you can't go backwards. You can never go home, but I guess you can shop there. You know me. I've gone all in on the Bengals every season for the last few. I've always enjoyed them. I think what's happened to that team in the off season and what Joe Burrow's, coming off back of injuries and things like that, what he's faced with now, what he's got left of that team, it's not as much to work with as it was. And it's not been a great start. But I agree, they did look good against the Chiefs. They were just eked out.
Yeah. We'll see. We will certainly see. So, just to clarify, on the side bet, Andy's 4 selections are the Las Vegas Raiders at home to the Carolina Panthers, the Buffalo Bills at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Kansas City Chiefs on the road at the Atlanta Falcons, and the Green Bay Packers on the road at the Tennessee Titans. My 4 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home to the Denver Broncos, the Cleveland Browns at home to the New York Giants, the Seattle Seahawks at home to the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets at home to the New England Patriots. The book is closed for another week in the National Football League. Is there anything else you'd like to bring to the table?
No, I have well and truly derailed this week's podcast and left, right, and centre. I've probably had too much caffeine and not enough sleep, and I think it's caused just chaos, quite frankly. I just felt there was quite a lot. Week 2 seemed to have quite a lot going on, so plenty to go through. Tune in and see how these games pan out. If you want to take either of us on, or the guest on, or the podcast as a whole on, email us, hop over to the website, click the email button, it'll populate an email for you. Drop your predictions in. The way I do it is I just put which team I think is going to win out of the 2. I send them over to Paul, you put them in the book. And if you want to do the same, as long as it's before 6 p.m. UK time no, that's wrong. As long as it's before Thursday's game, then yes, we will put you in the book. And if you win, I'm going to send you a very special prize. If you manage to equal or draw with us, I will send you another prize. It's not quite as special, but still special because, it's something free. It will be NFL related. I know exactly what it's going to be from my personal collection. So yeah, if you want to get involved with that, prizes, free prize, free. Other than that, I don't have anything else. No.
In that case, it just leaves it to us to say thank you to you, the listeners. Thank you to you, the YouTube viewers. Obviously, if you're new around here, if this is your first time watching us on the old YouTube, so maybe think about subscribe our way. Click that notification, click the bell, and obviously you'll be notified for any new stuff that comes up in your feed from us here at the CookieCast Podcast Network. It's not just NFL we talk about. There's the weekly football podcast. There is the monthly wrestling podcast, if the wrestling floats your boat. There is the F1 podcast. And there's just the general musings of Mr. Andrew Cook himself on the Darkest Timeline podcast. Plenty for you to get your teeth into. So yeah, a little subscribe wouldn't go amiss. It would be very much appreciated. A little like, a little subscribe, a little share, so your friends know where to get all of their tasty NFL, football, F1, and wrestling and inside of Andy's head updates. But that's it for another week. thank you as always to you guys for listening and watching. Join us again next week where we may have a guest to bring their predictions in. If we don't, I'll just find another way to get some predictions from a third party into the podcast. But until then, thanks as always. Take care of yourselves. Keep an eye out for each other. And we'll see you next week right back here on the CookieCast Laces Out podcast. Goodbye for now.
So there you go. What do you think of that? Apologies for no guest. There will be a guest one day. I'm sure I can. If I put my mind to it, I can probably get us a guest. Don't hold your breath. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. Get involved with the sending in your picks. I promise, if you win, I'll send you a prize. If you draw, I'll still send you a prize. That is it for this one. Don't forget to check out the website, cookiecast.com. If you need to get in touch with us, that is, like I was saying in the podcast. You can just email us or social media. But yes, that's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
You've just listened to another episode of CookieCast. Thanks for listening.